How you doing, guys? Welcome to LSPTV episode 2. Today I'm going to be discussing charting and why I feel it's so important, even just to learn as a basic skill, on a basic level, just sport resistance levels, understanding reactions, just seeing things in a slightly different way. Today I'm going to go through a comparison between maybe somebody who doesn't look at charts or isn't interested in acquiring this particular skill, and those who have even a basic understanding of charting and how that kind of looks in terms of giving us more information. And to be honest, the more information that we have in any endeavor that we're doing in life, the better off we will be going forward, obviously, and the more informed we will be, the better decisions we'll be able to make, and so on. So when we look at CoinMarketCap top 10, and you see it as it is now, and I've basically taken a screenshot without the little charts that it has right to the right. So I wanted to just kind of focus on numbers. So when we look at the top 10 like this, and this is current as of the the recording of this video, I actually took this screenshot a couple of minutes ago, and you can see Bitcoin on the days, for the last 24-hour percentage is down 1.3%. The last 7 days, down 1%. We can see the market cap, we can see the 24-hour volume. But ultimately, if we were to just look at this and this only, without anything else, which is very rare, most people don't do this, but it's the only way that I know to really emphasize, how charting can really make a difference in terms of your understanding, and giving you a much more informed, perspective of what you're looking at, right? But when we're looking at this, it doesn't really give us much, we just see that, yes, Bitcoin down 1.3%. Based on CoinMarketCap's data over the last 24 hours. Ethereum's down 1.13%. Tether's obviously Tether, so that's not going to be going anywhere. It's a stable coin. BNB down 1.35%. XRP, down 1.91%. So if we look at this, we can make one general assumption. Well, we can make two, actually. The first being the majority of the top 10 are down. So that may indicate a little bit of down momentum in the market, maybe slightly bearish, but it's very easy to make assumptions when we're just looking at numbers, right? And the other assumption that we can make is that Avalanche, AVAX, is doing better according to the top 10, or in this case, top 7, really, because we're going to take away USD coin, and Tether, but you get my point. That Avalanche is doing better, than the rest at the moment. So there may be some relative strength there on Avalanche. Maybe you want to look into that a little bit closer. But it doesn't really give us much. When we're looking at numbers like this, all we're seeing is just a bunch of numbers, and the only emphasis that we can place on that is what we're seeing, and any understanding that we have is based on two key factors, whether it's up or down, you know what I mean? Maybe you can add a few things like saying, well, then the majority is down, or one of them standing out, or, the majority are up, one of them standing out. But that's pretty much it. There's nothing really, unless we really break down the market cap and go into the supply and all of this stuff. So if we just go back, we can see a circulating supply of all of these tokens, and then we can say, well, I'm going to take a snapshot every day of the circulating supply and see what's kind of happening to that. But again, it doesn't really tell us much. So let's go over to the first example, and I'm going to use Bitcoin and I'm going to use Ethereum. And we're going to go on the perspective of somebody who's just looking at charts, alongside data like this. So we look at Bitcoin like this, and I've made a reference to two key areas, right? And you see how this opens up your understanding, just having a simple basic knowledge of charting and using charting as a tool to make a better informed decision. So at number 1, we can see that we saw a reaction. Now, you guys are familiar with the way that I mark up my charts. This is a liquidity pool, yes, but even if you don't make a reference, and I've done it both ways, so you'll see in the example of Ethereum. So, it makes it easier for those that don't know anything about the way that I look at charts. I'm going to give you two examples, right? But when you look at number 1, we can see that there was a price reaction from there that was pretty significant, because when we look at number 2, we can see what that reaction is. So when we go back to this, we say, okay, Bitcoin is down on the day. Over the last 24 hours, it's been, it's down 1.3%. Can't really see much from that. Nothing really changes our mind. We don't really have any information to work with, and we're not just going to go jumping on Bitcoin now because we feel it's a great price, right? Whereas when we look at a chart, everything is different.
We can see the reaction at 1. We can look at number 2 and say, that looks like a pretty decent reversal. Price came down into 1. Now it's reversed and it's pretty much, taken out the entire move back to the upside. It's looking mildly bullish. It's likely that we could potentially get a move maybe to 46,000 or 48,000. But we can see that there's been some movement, and that 1.3% becomes null and void effectively, because now we have so much more information to work with, and all we've done is made a reference to 2 key points, right? So you can see how all of this opens up. And I just want to quickly take a step back and say, I will be going into basic charting. I'll do a series on this eventually, and I will post it, to the YouTube channel. I've got so much that I've got to get through, obviously. And I do work with a lot of projects. I work with a lot of people, back and forth. And, it's not that my time is limited. It's just it's trying to find the time to fit in making these videos, because they do take up, quite a lot of, they do basically take a lot of effort to make. So we can see something completely different here, and it opens up everything for us. Even like I said, something as basic as this, it's like, okay, now I have a much more informed much more informed, idea of what I'm seeing on Bitcoin. It doesn't look bearish. It doesn't look like it wants to go lower right now, at least for the short term. It may look like it's recovering a little bit and maybe wants to continue going to the upside. So let's go over to the example of Ethereum. And in Ethereum, what I've done is I've made a reference to a reaction that we can clearly see. So if you're just looking at charts for the first time and you look at number 1, you say, okay, I can see that there's been a reaction there, because the move after that is, pretty decent. We went all the way from around about sort of $2,100 all the way up to roughly current price of around about $3,070. So we can see there's been a pretty decent reaction. And in number 2, I've made a very small reference to what could potentially be a target. So now we're opening things up a little bit more. We're going into reaction points. Okay, great. We've seen the reaction. It's looking quite bullish. Then we can start to pair the 2 together and say, well, Bitcoin's looking pretty decent. If you look at the 2 in terms of relative strength or relative weakness, right now, Bitcoin is front running Ethereum. So you can see the move on Bitcoin is higher fractally than the move on Ethereum. Okay. So we know between the 2, and I'll show you again, that if you were going to take just a very basic example, of relative strength, relative weakness, Bitcoin does look, a little bit stronger. Yes, it's the big one. Yes, it moves most of the market, but ultimately it's a good indicator that if Bitcoin is front running like this, it's probably going to continue, and it's going to drag Ethereum with it, even though it's showing a little bit of weakness compared to Bitcoin. So is 2 likely? Are we likely to get to 3,400? And you can see that now I have more questions to ask, instead of just, okay, Ethereum's down 1.13% in the last 24 hours. The circulating supply is, 119, blah, 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 blah. What do I do with this? I don't know. There's no questions for me to ask. Without questions, I can't make an informed decision. I can't work things out. But when we go back to the chart, now things are opening up a little bit. And you can see I've been rambling for maybe the last sort of 10 minutes. And we've already gone through a myriad of different ideas and examples of just looking at 2 very basic, chart markups of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I'm hoping that you can see through this, and we will continue to expound on these ideas in these series. We're going to go through so much content and so much information, and my intention is to really put out the best information and quality information, and education that I can, to really help people understand. Looking at charts isn't just about looking at a bunch of candles going up and down. It complements everything else that you're doing, and it really opens up your understanding. It helps you to, ask those questions. What should I do now? Is it looking like this? These are the levels. What about this level? What about that level? Then maybe you compare a particular level that you're looking at, maybe 3,400 on Ethereum, with maybe some fundamental news that you've read, some news sources that you trust, and so on. It just opens everything up, to really help you understand the broader investment strategy that you're using, and that you're implementing, or the methodology that you're building over, over time and over the years. So I hope through this episode, I've piqued your interest in terms of charting. Like I said, I will be, introducing some charting series as well, just going over some, foundational stuff to get people, focused and started with charts, because I'm so passionate about charting. I absolutely love, what I'm like, guys. You see how I am with charts, and I love to be able to instill that in other people. because I know it's such a useful and, more importantly, such a powerful tool, that complements your investment strategy. So with that said, I hope everyone's having an absolutely fantastic day or evening wherever you are in the world, and I look forward to speaking to you in episode 3. All the best and take care.